Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Where we take a stack of research, a whole bunch of different sources,
Right.
and really kind of distill it down into the most important insights that you, the learner, need to know.
Absolutely.
Today, we are doing a deep dive on Li Xiang, the driving force behind Li Auto.
Okay, great.
And, well, obviously, we're going to be talking about Li Auto, but we're going to start with his earlier ventures, Popcorn and Auto Home.
Right.
To kind of get a sense of the journey that led him to where he is now. And so just to kind of set the table here a little bit, we're not just interested in like the chronological what happened. We're really going to try to drill down into the why,
Yeah, why this guy is so successful, why Li Auto has made some very unique design choices.
Exactly.
And how it all kind of fits together.
Right. So we have a lot of analyses here, a bunch of different perspectives on both Li Xiang and Li Auto and the automotive market as a whole. So we're going to synthesize that for you.
Right.
And
sounds like a plan.
Yeah, let's get started. So starting way back, Li Xiang's entrepreneurial spirit seems to have started remarkably early, even back in his school days.
Yeah.
He already had his sights set on becoming a general manager. Like, that was his ambition.
Interesting.
It wasn't about being popular or getting good grades. It was about managing a company. So it speaks volumes, that at such a young age, he had that kind of clear vision.
Right. It suggests a very early understanding of leadership and maybe like a natural inclination towards organization and structure.
Yeah.
But what's even more fascinating is that this early ambition sort of found a new direction when personal computers started becoming more prevalent.
Right. He discovered computers.
Yeah.
And that really became a turning point for him. His grades actually suffered.
Right.
Because he was so intensely focused on this new technology.
Interesting.
He wasn't satisfied with just kind of rote learning. He wanted to really experiment and question the information that was out there and figure things out on his own.
So from a young age, he really was not afraid to kind of deviate from the traditional path and really just explore his own interests.
Yeah, exactly. And this led him to actually writing. While he was still in high school, he started writing about computers.
Oh.
And he ended up getting a paid article published in Computer Business Information.
Nice.
And what's amazing is, from this one article, he made a significant amount of money, like more than his parents were making at the time.
Wow, that's impressive.
It was a huge validation for him at such a young age.
Right.
It showed him that the knowledge that he had and his ability to communicate that knowledge actually had real-world value.
That's so important, the learner. That early financial success probably really cemented his belief in the power of information and his own ability to leverage it. Like, that must have been a really formative experience for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of instills a strong sense of agency and shows you that your passion can be turned into a profitable venture.
Exactly. And so he didn't stop there. He launched his own personal website.
Still in his teens.
Still in high school.
PC Online's home of graphics cards.
Oh.
And he was very deliberate in how he approached it. Like, he would update the content in the early morning to capture peak traffic.
Really?
He was already thinking about, like, user needs and optimizing for maximum impact.
That's amazing. That's so early on to have that understanding of how to best reach an online audience.
Yeah, he had that understanding of user behavior, even then.
Okay.
So during the late 90s internet boom, this website became very successful, very profitable.
Right.
As we said, he was making more money than his parents, still in high school.
Wow.
Then around the year 2000, he made the formal jump into the internet world with popcorn.com.
Popcorn.com. Okay, so this is the formal jump into the internet world. But wasn't this also around the time the .com bubble burst?
Exactly, yeah. It was a very challenging time.
Right.
A lot of online businesses were failing.
Yeah.
Popcorn faced its own financial difficulties, and Li Xiang actually had to go back to freelance writing for a while just to keep things afloat. So even for someone as ambitious and driven as Li Xiang, there were definitely setbacks along the way.
For sure. It shows that, you can have a great vision.
Yeah.
But external factors can really impact your success.
Absolutely.
But then came a crucial intervention.
Oh.
His partner, Xiaozhen,
Right.
suggested establishing a Beijing branch for Popcorn.
Okay.
And actually managed to secure an early advertising deal with Lenovo.
Wow.
And that deal proved to be really a lifeline for the company.
That's great.
It gave them the financial stability they needed.
Right.
And it led to their move to Beijing, which was really the heart of China's tech scene at the time.
That's a huge turning point for them, the learner. This Lenovo deal, it wasn't just about the money. It provided stability and opened up all sorts of new opportunities by putting them right in the middle of the action.
Right. Xiao Zhen really came through for them.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of those strategic partnerships.
Yeah.
And how one well-timed deal can completely change a company's trajectory.
Right. But internally, things were not so smooth at Popcorn.
Really?
Like Xiang's early management style created a lot of friction.
Oh, how so?
Reports suggest he had a very intense approach, like low salaries, really long working hours.
Okay.
He really prioritized the hardware side over things like community building.
Interesting.
And apparently, he preferred to communicate with his team through instant messaging,
Even in the same office?
even when they were sitting right next to each other.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it was a very demanding environment.
It sounds like a really high-pressure cooker environment.
Yeah.
It makes you think maybe it was a common challenge for young tech entrepreneurs back then.
That's a good question.
Like maybe the pressure was so intense, the growth was happening so fast that they just put product development above everything else.
Yeah, that's possible.
But, even though you have a great vision, effectively leading and motivating a team, that's a whole other skill set.
Absolutely.
And I wonder if Li Xiang was still kind of learning the ropes in that area.
Right. And it definitely led to problems. A lot of employees ended up leaving.
Oh,
And the company was on the verge of collapse.
really?
Xiaozin actually, again, stepped in and helped stabilize the situation.
He seems like a really invaluable asset to the team.
Yeah, he was crucial in getting them through those tough times.
So what happened next?
Well, they launched a new venture, Auto Home.
Auto home.
Initially, it was just a business segment within popcorn.com,
Okay.
but they ran into an interesting situation where popcorn.com was profitable,
Yeah.
but Auto Home was operating at a loss as it tried to gain traction in a very competitive market.
Oh, I see. So you have the situation where the established business is making money,
Right.
but the new venture needs investment and resources to grow.
Exactly, and it created internal conflict.
Yeah, it's like, should they keep pouring money into this new venture that's not making money yet,
Right.
while the core business is doing well?
So, Li Xiang made a decision.
Yeah.
He decided to spin off Auto Home
Wow.
into its own separate entity
That's a big move.
that would need to secure its own external funding.
So he was really committed to this idea.
Yeah, he believed in its potential even though it was losing money.
Bold move. So how did he go about securing funding?
Well, it wasn't easy. A lot of investors were skeptical, understandably. They were like, how can Auto Home, a newcomer,
Yeah.
compete with the giants like Sina and Sohu?
Yeah, those were already huge players in the market.
Right, they had established automotive channels and a lot of resources.
Yeah, so how did Li Xiang convince investors?
He had a very specific pitch. He emphasized that Auto Home was going to focus on car newbies,
Car newbies, what does that mean?
people who are new to buying cars, like ordinary internet users who are just starting their car buying journey
Oh, I see.
and likely overwhelmed by all the information that's out there.
Right, right.
He said they were going to provide detailed, user-friendly information,
Okay.
and they were going to be operating extensively on weekends when people had more time to research.
Smart. That's really smart.
This really resonated with one investor in particular, Sue Manzi,
Okay.
who made a crucial $1 million investment.
Wow, so this focus on car newbies
Yeah.
really highlights an important business principle, right? Like, identify an underserved niche
Right.
and tailor your offering to their specific needs.
Exactly. We'll see a similar approach with Li Auto later on.
I see. Okay, that's interesting.
But not everyone was convinced. There was one prominent figure, Zhu Hongyi,
Okay.
who actually rejected the idea.
Really?
He said he didn't think Auto Home could become the #1 car website,
Oh, wow.
especially given where popcorn.com was ranked at the time.
So he kind of underestimated Li Xiang's ability to adapt and innovate?
Yeah, I think he was looking at past performance
Yeah.
and not really seeing the potential for growth in a new market.
Makes sense. It's easy to get stuck in that mindset,
Yeah.
especially when you're already a big player.
Right. And then came another key partnership, this time with Kinzi,
Okay.
who brought international experience to Auto Home. And he really boosted their revenue.
How so?
He brought in professional sales practices
Right.
and a deep understanding of international advertising clients.
So he brought a whole new level of sophistication to the business.
Exactly. And it really shows Li Xiang's ability to bring in people with the right skills.
Yeah, knowing your limitations and surrounding yourself with people who fill those gaps, that's really important for any leader.
Right, and Qingji went even further.
Right.
He helped formalize Autohome's mission,
Right.
their values, their business processes.
So he brought structure to the organization.
Yeah, he really laid the groundwork for their future success.
Which is so important as a company grows.
Right.
You need those processes in place to scale effectively.
But this shift towards more formal management also created some friction.
Oh, how so?
Well, Qingzi's arrival and his focus on professionalization led to some tension with Xiao Zhen.
Oh, the partner who had been there since the early days?
Right, he was Li Xiang's longtime number 2.
Yeah, makes sense. They probably had very different styles.
Yeah, and it ultimately escalated into a power struggle.
Oh, wow.
Which led to Xiao Zhen leaving Autohome.
Really?
And he actually went on to start his own competing website, Truckhome.
So business can be pretty personal sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when you have strong personalities and high stakes involved.
Right, and so the Autohome story concludes with a successful IPO on the U.S. stock market,
Okay.
which generated huge returns for their major investor, Telstra.
Wow. So all that hard work paid off in the end.
Yeah, it shows that venture capital can be very successful when you have a strong vision and good execution.
Absolutely. And for the learner, it's important to remember that this early success wasn't just about making money. It validated Li Xiang's ability to find a need and build a solution from the ground up.
Exactly, and that's a skill we'll see again and again with Li Auto.
All right, so let's move on to Li Auto, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about Li Auto. Now, there's a lot of talk about Li Auto almost going under at one point.
Right, and there's this story about Wang Xing from Meituan stepping in and personally saving the company.
Right, and it's a great story, but we have to be careful here.
Okay.
Because based on the sources that we have for this deep dive, we don't have any specific details to back that up.
So we can't really confirm that the company was actually on the verge of collapse or that Wang Xing was directly involved in a turnaround.
Yeah, it's a popular narrative, but we can't really delve into it with the information we have right now.
Right. It's important to stick to the facts and what we can verify.
So instead, let's focus on what our sources do highlight about Li Auto, particularly its approach to car design.
Okay.
Which was very different from what companies like NIO and XPeng were doing at the time.
Right. They were all about pure electric vehicles.
Exactly. But Li Auto went a different route.
Okay. I'm interested to hear about this. So what did they do differently?
One of the things our sources emphasize is their strong product definition.
Okay. What does that mean?
It means they were really good at identifying underserved segments of the market and figuring out how to tailor their products to those specific needs.
So who were they targeting?
Early on, they really focused on families.
Families.
Specifically families in that 200,000 RMB and above price range.
Interesting.
Which at the time seems to have been overlooked by a lot of the other EV companies.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a pretty specific niche.
Right, and a big part of this strategy was their focus on range extender technology.
Okay, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's often called UTHA in Chinese.
Okay.
Which basically means sincere range extended.
Okay.
Basically, it allowed them to offer the benefits of electric power without the limitations of a purely electric car.
So it addressed the range anxiety issue.
Exactly. People were worried about not having enough charging stations and not being able to drive long distances.
Yeah, that was a big concern for a lot of early adopters.
Right. And while some people believed that EV technology would solve this problem quickly,
yeah,
Li Auto was betting on consumer behavior, and it turned out to be a really good bet.
It gave them a real edge over their competitors, especially in those early years.
Right. People weren't ready to go fully electric.
So this range extender technology made them a lot more appealing to a wider range of customers.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning that Wang Xing, the founder of Meituan, has a pretty significant stake in Li Auto.
Right.
Now, we don't have any evidence that he was directly involved in any kind of turnaround.
Right.
But his investment probably had a lot of influence on their strategic thinking.
Yeah, his experience with Meituan could have been really valuable.
Right, especially in terms of market assessment and large-scale investment decisions.
Makes sense. They both operate in very competitive markets.
Exactly. And there's another interesting insight from our research about Li Xiang.
Okay.
Apparently, he has a very deep understanding of user needs.
Okay.
And it goes beyond what people might say in surveys or market research.
Like he can see beyond what people are consciously aware of.
Right. For example, he noticed that while people might say things like safety and driving performance are important, when it actually comes to buying a car, the decision often comes down to something much simpler, like how the car looks.
It's about the emotional appeal.
Yeah, and that's a really nuanced understanding of consumer psychology.
It's about understanding what really motivates people.
Right, and this range extender approach also had a big commercial advantage.
Oh, how so?
Well, it meant they didn't have to invest as much in charging infrastructure,
Right, that makes sense.
which would have been a huge undertaking.
Yeah, especially in the early days of EVs.
So they were able to get their cars on the road more quickly and with less upfront investment.
Smart move.
Now, of course, they've since expanded into pure electric vehicles.
Okay.
So now they have a dual strategy.
Which can be tricky to manage.
Right, they have to manage two different technology platforms.
Yeah,
And make sure they're appealing to different customer segments.
right, without cannibalizing their own sales.
Exactly, it's a balancing act.
So how are they handling the supply chain side of things?
Well, for their core EV systems, like the motor, electronic controls, and controllers, they've gone with high vertical integration.
So they're doing a lot of in-house production and research and development.
Exactly. They're even investing in upstream technologies like silicon carbide.
So they're really trying to control the key components of their technology.
Right. But for more mature components, like battery cells,
Yeah.
they're doing selective outsourcing.
Okay, so they're picking and choosing where to focus their resources.
Exactly. It's a very strategic approach.
It allows them to focus on innovation where it matters most.
Right. And they've also been smart about how they approach innovation.
Yeah.
They've chosen to self-develop certain products like air suspension systems and domestic chips.
That's right.
But they're not necessarily building their own factories for these things.
So they're able to differentiate their products without having to make huge investments in manufacturing.
Exactly. It's very agile and capital efficient.
It's all about finding those creative solutions.
And if you look at all of this, the common thread throughout Li Xiang's career is his focus on the user.
Right, that user-centric approach.
He's always thinking about what users need and want, even if they can't articulate it themselves.
Yeah, it's about understanding their pain points.
Right, and that's really been the key to his success.
It's a theme that goes all the way back to his early days with PC Online and Autohome.
Exactly, and it's continuing with Li Auto.
It's really impressive how consistent he's been with that approach.
Yeah, so to sum it up, Li Xiang's journey has been full of twists and turns.
Right.
He's shown incredible adaptability and resilience.
Yeah, from navigating the dot-com bubble to spinning off Autohome to leading Li Auto through a rapidly changing market.
Right, and through it all, he's always kept that focus on the user.
Absolutely, and that's a valuable lesson for any entrepreneur.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
Given Li Xiang's track record,
Yeah.
his ability to adapt and innovate, and his deep understanding of user needs, how do you think he's going to navigate the future of the EV market?
That's a great question.
Li Auto is facing a lot of challenges with the rise of pure electric vehicles
Yeah.
and the complexities of managing that dual technology strategy. So how will Li Xiang adapt, and what will he do next?
It's going to be interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.